Gary Neville say he didn't want to be so hyped up before a game and he just wanted to stand and think about the game. I'm pretty sure most of ours do. I've rarely seen one that hasn't. So yeah, we would like it. We know it means a lot to people to see it, but I'm not going to enforce it if it's not the preparation somebody wants for a game.
Sure thing. You boomed it out, didn't you?
Yeah, because it inspired me, to be fair, to go into the game.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is I massively respect other nations. I can honestly say, on occasion, I've sung other national anthems because I found them quite rousing.
Quite catchy.
Catchy tunes.
Yeah, I love it. He never swapped his England jersey with an opponent on the field of play. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
You'd never do it. For you, Gareth, is it just part of the game when you played?
Well, at the start we weren't allowed to swap because the kit man had changed it.
Really?
Now they get
Go get that jersey.
Yeah. Because I think with England we always got two, didn't we? So you
Yeah.
could swap one. I was never in a rush to swap. I never wanted to give my opponent the thought that I was so desperate for his shirt. Hence, I've got a load of shirts at home that are full-backs, and I was marking a lot of great centre forwards, Romario, and all those who I just kind of let them go, and of course, all those that have got my shirt are chuffed to bits that they got mine as well.
Gareth, on a serious note, one question I want to ask this lunchtime is this: are we too quick to dismiss the person behind the player? You mentioned Gary Neville a few moments ago. On his show, The Overlap, he recently spoke to Dele Alli. Have a listen.
Probably the saddest moment for me was when Mourinho was manager. I think I was 24. And I remember there was one session, like one morning I woke up, I had to go train. This is when he'd stopped playing me. And I was in a bad place. And I remember just looking in the mirror. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but I was literally staring in the mirror. And I was asking if I could retire now. At 24, doing the thing I love. For me, that was heartbreaking. To even have had that thought at 24 to want to retire, that hurt me a lot. That was another thing that I had to carry.
What did you make of that, Gareth, when you heard it? You've obviously heard it. Are we too quick to dismiss the person behind the player? Because a lot of people, when Simon and I were on one morning, people were giving us their take on what's happened to Dele Alli. Where's this great player gone? Is it his attitude? What is it? And then we heard this. Sometimes we'll be too quick to judge.
Well, I think in general people will be, and I think when you're a coach or a manager, you have a far better understanding of what might be going on in people's lives. So, without knowing all of the detail that Dele gave that day, I had a very good idea about his upbringing and the challenges that he'd been through. And I remember, we were talking about Gascoigne earlier. I remember reading his autobiography and him saying that people said I wasted my talent. But actually, his view was it was a miracle he got to where he did. And with some of our boys and the way that their lives have been when they were younger, it is actually a miracle they get as far as they do. And so, of course, it's easy to then say, they're wasting a talent, but none of us really know what goes on behind it, closed doors of anybody's life, do they? So I think as coaches, you try to help, you try to support. What pleased me most about hearing Dele speak was that it was the bit before that he'd gone into rehab, that he'd recognised this was something that he needed to take control of and try and get himself back on track. And, let's hope that he can, on a human level, first of all, get back on track, and then the football will come as a part of that.
I think the job of any coach or any manager is to maximise potential of any individual. Now, you have to do that in varying ways this day and age, whether it be on the training pitch, encouraging, or alternatively, it might be phone calls in the background, you know what I mean, and just saying, is everything okay in your life?
That's right. Another perfect example of that, Aaron Ramsdale at Arsenal. I mean, the Premier League, of course, at the best of times is an absolute cauldron. And Arsenal trying to overhaul Manchester City last season very nearly did. But Ramsdale revealed for the first time, Gareth, that his wife Georgina suffered a miscarriage on a flight back to the UK in January after a break after Qatar. And he says, after the high of climbing to the top of the Premier League table, I'm going off to my first World Cup. My wife and I found out that we were expecting our first child. Mikel Arteta gave me a few days off after the World Cup, so we went on a brief holiday. It was genuinely the happiest time of our lives. And yeah, there's no easy way to say this, but I feel like it's important that people know. On the flight home, my wife had a miscarriage. He goes on to say, Gareth, that Mikel Arteta, I mean, only his family, my teammates, and Mikel knew. They're the only group of people that he told that Arteta went above and beyond to make sure that he and his family were okay. And of course, to anyone else, maybe in the pub that day, I tell you who was brilliant last season, Ramsdale. I know he needs to get better. And we're all talking about these players all the time. We don't really know what goes on, but you guys do. And it's important that we have a perception of that, is it not?
Well, I think it would be helpful, but to expect everybody in the ground to really have that view and to say when they've had a few beers, well, hang on a minute, we don't know what's going on at home for that person. I'm not sure that's realistic, but definitely as managers, you're dealing with more of these types of things than you think. I wasn't aware of what happened with Aaron. I actually, that's heartbreaking to hear. I met his wife when we were in Qatar. She came to the hotel. She'd actually had a difficult little spell just before that because the papers put her on the front page for something. So it's very sad to hear they've had to deal with that post-tournament as well.
Yeah, this is a piece that he himself has written.
I don't think fans and the general public would actually realise the knocks on the doors that managers get on a daily basis at any football club in the country that are personal issues. They're relevant to football. They'll be absolutely astounded.
Yeah. What's been the summer? What's it been like for you? One or two people are just asking, just shoot the time of day with you. Have you been away? Do you get a break? What do you do, Gary?
Yeah, so when we finished our games, we went out to see the under-21s play. We've had some planning stuff at St George's, a couple of weeks holiday. Managed to take a day in at Headingley, which was brilliant. And now we're focusing in on the pre-season games. Of course, they've all been away touring, but we've been watching those games, picking them up. We've got a system where we can get those games the morning after they're played. So we're back into tracking the players because we play again only sort of 3 weeks into the season. We've got to pick a squad again, so that's going to come around really quickly.
For sure. And the Lionesses, you're keeping your eye on them. This could be back-to-back tournament wins, couldn't it? How good would that be?
Well, they're going to go close, without a doubt. I never want to put pressure on them because the draw has opened up, but you still have to win those games. So, and they've been hit with some pretty significant injuries, but they seem to have dealt with that really well. So they're going well. I know the netball girls. My daughter played netball, so she's not a women's football fan. She's a netball fan. They're also doing really well down under. They've got a world championship at the moment, and they beat Australia yesterday. So it's significant moments for the women's game.
Before you go, many points being made to me to put to you about Jude Bellingham. First of all, I mean, I met him down the road, Gareth, some years ago when he was playing for Birmingham against Millwall. And I chatted to him afterwards, and that night he had been magnificent. He was 16 then. What have you guys got in Bellingham?
Well, you've met the boy, so you know the personality, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths. He's a player a person who wants to improve, who wants to learn. So he's still got that level of humility. Good family support around him. They've made good decisions on his career. So, going to Germany, a big club with big expectation, but knew he was going to play pretty much every week. So I thought a really intelligent career decision. Now this next step into, arguably the biggest club in the world, that'll bring some callers in, I'm sure. But, now he's got to settle into a dressing room with a different level of player and adapt to a different style of play. And it's going to be interesting. They've played a diamond in the pre-season games. He's played at the tip of the diamond, so that will be new for him. He'll be having to adapt to that. He's got Modric and Cruz still there, so there's some outstanding players still in that football club, but it's a brilliant life experience and he's still so young.
Absolutely. We'll round off with this. Sure, on you go.
Just a quick one. Just rolling the clock forward, when your time as manager with England's finished, would you consider a role within the FA overviewing everything? Because I think you'd be brilliant at it. I think the FA have missed a trick with probably Sir Alf and probably Bobby Robson as well. When their time was up, they left the FA. I wouldn't. I would make sure that there was an offer there for you to stay and overview the next generation of coaches, managers, whatever? Would that be something that interests you?
I haven't thought too much about that, and I think the one difference you've got now in football is you've got a technical director that probably wasn't the case in those days, and Dan Ashworth and then John McDermott have done brilliant jobs on that continuity.
Yeah.
So I think we have had and have got good people in those roles to make sure that the junior teams are covered. And so, look, I've not really thought about what might be next. I'm always thinking of the next game and the next tournament.
Yeah.
And I'll always want to help English football wherever I am. I'll always want England to do well. So I'm bought in on that. But yeah, I think we've actually got people who have done a really good job in those roles.
So let me put it to you: what would constitute success, real success, in Germany next summer?
Well, we're back to where we started, aren't we? You know, our ambition is to win, and we accept. I think when we started, you know, I'm not sure the team were ready to accept the pressure of the expectation of winning. But now the level that we're performing at, the trophies that the players have won with their clubs, the big nights we've been through, I think we have to accept that pressure more now. So in the end, I'm comfortable with talking about that. But we must never lose sight of the immediate focus of we've got to qualify, we've got to play well in against Ukraine and get the points on the board that get us to Germany first. So, you know, a step at a time.
And do you prefer Stuart Pearce, the teammate, or the Talksport colleague?
I've not noticed any difference, really.
No.
You know, he is as he is.
I'm through one night, sadly.
Gareth Southgate, it's a joy. Thank you so much for being with us, Gareth, here in the 17th floor of the news building. It's quite a place, isn't it?
I've enjoyed it, Jim. It's been lovely to come in and speak to you both.
You've been brilliant.